Good afternoon. It is Wednesday, April 22nd, and you are looking at a live view of Falcon 9 as it awaits its 3:31 p.m. Eastern Time launch from Pad 39A at Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Hello from SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. My name is Lauren Lyons, and I'm an engineer on the Starlink team here at SpaceX, and you are watching a live webcast for our 7th Starlink mission and our 7th mission this year. To date, we've launched over 360 Starlink satellites to orbit, and as a reminder, Starlink is a constellation of satellites that can provide high-speed, low-latency internet across the globe, particularly in remote areas where connectivity is limited or completely unavailable. The Falcon 9 booster that you see on your screen will be flying today for the 4th time. It previously supported Crew Dragon's first demonstration mission to the International Space Station back in March of 2019, the launch of the RadarSat constellation mission in June 2019, and the January 2020 launch of the Starlink mission. Just like our first stages, we are also starting to reuse our fairings. Today we are flying a reused fairing which previously flew on the Amos 17 mission last year. I mentioned that this booster flew on Crew Dragon's first demonstration mission to the space station, and if you follow SpaceX, you know the date for our second demo mission is May 27th. It'll be a historic mission launching American astronauts from U.S. soil to the International Space Station for the first time since 2011, and we'll touch on that more later on in the broadcast. If for any reason there is a hold on the countdown today, we do have a backup launch window opportunity tomorrow at 3:16 p.m. Eastern. So with that, all systems are go for an on-time liftoff this evening. Now, you may recall during our last Starlink mission, there was an early engine shutdown on Falcon 9's first stage during ascent. The Falcon 9 booster safely completed its mission as it was designed to in the event of an engine shutdown and delivered the satellites to their intended orbit. Since then, our engineers determined that the issue stemmed from a small amount of isopropyl alcohol, which is a cleaning fluid, that became trapped inside of a sensor dead leg, or an area where it couldn't flow through, and then it ignited. We did not perform that cleaning process on the rocket supporting today's mission, and all 9 Merlin engines, which were test fired on the pad just last week, are looking healthy ahead of flight. Prior to today's launch, the vehicle was housed in our hangar at Launch Complex 39A until about 24 hours ago, when the rocket, along with the Starlink payload, was rolled out to the pad and raised vertical. The bottom 2/3 of the vehicle that you can see there, that is the first stage. You can actually see the soot markings left over from its last flight. The first stage is what accelerates the vehicle through the Earth's atmosphere to the edge of space with the help of 9 Merlin engines at the base of the rocket. Today we'll be attempting to recover the first stage for the 4th time on our drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You, which you can see there. And it's currently stationed about 350 nautical miles northeast off the Cape. Above the first stage is the second stage, which has a single Merlin vacuum or MVAC engine, which ignites after the first stage separates. The second stage is what will carry the Starlink satellites into an elliptical orbit above the Earth's surface. From there, they'll use their propulsion systems to move up to their operational altitude of 550 kilometers. Falcon 9 began loading propellants at T-minus 35 minutes. And as a reminder, we use a rocket-grade kerosene, or RP1, as our fuel, and super chilled liquid oxygen, or LOX, as our oxidizer to power the Falcon 9. Currently, RP1 and LOX are nearly fully loaded on both stages, and LOX will continue to be topped off right up until the last minute of the countdown. The stack of 60 Starlink satellites is safely enclosed inside of the 17-foot diameter payload fairing, which you can see there, that pointed cone at the very top of the rocket. This protects the satellites from aerothermal heating, aerodynamic loads, and contamination during ascent. Once we reach the vacuum of space, we will jettison the fairing as the second stage continues on its journey to orbit. We won't be attempting to catch the fairing halves in our nets today, as our boat and fairing software are undergoing upgrades, but weather permitting, we will try to recover them from the water using our recovery ships Miss Tree and Miss Chief. And there's a live view from one of those ships. So as you can see, the water is looking a little rough, so stay tuned. Now, if you've been tracking the lead up to today's launch, you know that the weather has been a watch item for the last several days, with tornado warnings moving through the area. Our rocket and payload, however, were in the hangar as the storm passed, so we didn't see any adverse impacts as a result of that weather. And today, it's looking like a beautiful day for a launch. So with that, the vehicles, satellites, weather, and range are all looking good for an on-time liftoff just a few minutes from now. As I mentioned at the top of the webcast, SpaceX and NASA are now targeting May 27 for Falcon 9's launch of Crew Dragon's second demonstration mission, or Demo 2 as we like to call it. This will be the first time that a commercially built spacecraft will launch people to the space station, and the first time in nearly 10 years that the U.S. has launched astronauts into space from U.S. soil. Demo 2 is an end-to-end flight test from launch to docking to splashdown, and it is the final major milestone for SpaceX's human spaceflight system to be certified for NASA for operational crew missions to and from the International Space Station. Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley will be the first two NASA astronauts to fly aboard Crew Dragon after completing countless hours of training, both at SpaceX and at NASA's training facilities. Both the spacecraft and the launch vehicle are at the Cape and undergoing preparations, and as you may have seen on social, Falcon 9 is getting a special paint job for the Demo 2 mission. That's right, NASA has brought back the famous worm logo. As you can see the logo painted on the Demo 2 Falcon.
Who will be the first private manned spacecraft in America to go to the International Space Station? We're about to find out.
I think the United States is very much a nation of explorers.
This is a new generation, a new era in human spaceflight.
My heart is sitting right here, and I think it's going to stay there until we get Bob and Doug safely back.
Anyone who has an adventurous bone in their body is going to be very excited about this.
10, 9, 8, 7. We have a go for main engine start. 4, 3, 2.
Since the space shuttle was retired nearly a decade ago,
And liftoff.
it's been a race among several aerospace companies to be chosen as NASA's next solution for a cargo ship to the International Space Station, or ISS. But now it's down to two: Boeing's Starliner and SpaceX's Dragon. With a scheduled launch just days away, Elon Musk's SpaceX may be the first to pull off a historic milestone.
It's remarkable to think that the last time that a crewed launch vehicle departed from the United States was 2011. And so I think it would be really quite profound to be back in the saddle again.
We are going to launch American astronauts on American rockets from American soil. We're going to do it in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic.
The Falcon 9 to the space
This
station.